5 words. Motherfucking Nicolas Cage. What is happening, subs, stalkers, and freaks, and welcome back to Dead Jester Circus. So, Mandy. This was a movie that I have heard a lot of positive buzz about over the past few months, but I just had never gotten around to seeing it. So I finally watched it the other night, and wow. Now I'll be upfront and honest with you, about 30 minutes into the movie, I almost shut the damn thing off. Because I was like, what the fuck am I watching? It was so bizarre, and it was like I was watching some sort of film student's weird experimental film. It's literally like an acid trip. But I didn't. I stuck through and decided to watch it until the very end. And I'm glad I did. Because this really is one of those movies where in order to fully appreciate it, you do have to kind of see it all the way through. And honestly, it might possibly be the most beautiful, yet batshit insane movie I've ever seen in my life.
His fist closed around the serpent's eye. Strange and eternal.
Now, there's not much in terms of plot in this movie. It's a really kind of straightforward revenge story. And, you know, if you've seen one revenge story, you've seen them all. But the thing that makes this movie really stand out and stand on its own is the cinematography. If it wasn't for the cinematography in this movie, this might possibly be one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But the cinematography single-handedly saves this movie. It is gorgeous. If there was ever a lesson I can give on the use of color and how to use it effectively and how to use interesting camera techniques effectively and editing, like how to just do all that shit and make it look awesome, this movie would be it. It's a very show, don't tell kind of a movie. There's dialogue in this movie, but there's not a lot of exposition. You just kind of see events unfold, and the story is told more through the performance and the action. It's kind of what's not being said that conveys everything that you need to know. And on those merits alone, this might be the most impressive movie I have ever seen. But the one very big asterisk I can put on this movie is that it's not going to be for everybody. It's very uncomfortable, depressing, brutal, but on the other hand, there's something very cinematically poetic and something beautiful in how chaotic this movie is. It's a movie that's really hard to define because it's so many different things all wrapped up into one. Like, there's really not a box you can put it in. But in doing that, it kind of creates its own unique identity that it stands on, if that makes any sense. The acting across the board in this movie was great, but obviously the standout is Nicolas Cage. And yeah, he catches a lot of shit for some of the roles he does, but when you give him the right material and you give him a director who can kind of harness like the good Nicolas Cage, he can really, really deliver a just raw performance. And this movie might be his best performance that I've seen out of him in quite some time. There's one scene in particular where he's just going nuts in a bathroom, and he goes from being like manic to angry to depressed, and he's just all bloody, he's downing vodka, and it's just a powerful scene.
You're a special one, Mandy.
The only really negative thing I can say about this movie is all from a story standpoint. It's very paper thin, and it is one of those things where the movie spends way too much time focusing on the visuals than the actual story. I am very visually oriented when it comes to filmmaking. I love very artistic visual styles and very unique visual takes when it comes to movies. And this movie has it in spades. I just wish they would have focused a little bit more of that attention onto the actual plot and onto the actual story. And it's still very compelling. It's just you don't really get enough out of the actual plot for my own personal taste. And there's also a weird tone shift in this movie too, because the beginning is very slow, methodical, and it's very visual heavy. It lingers a lot on the shots. And then about halfway through, it seems like it's gonna kick into high gear, like into this kind of weird ass acid trippy action flick. But then the movie kind of doesn't pay that off. Like it doesn't go through with it all the way, and it kind of falls back into a slow, methodical pace. I'm trying to think of the right words to say them, and they're just failing to come to me. But yeah, I expected this kind of crazy ass ending, and yeah, we got Nicolas Cage going in revenge mode, which is nice, but I think I expected a little bit more and didn't really get it, and so I was kind of disappointed. And usually I never say this when it comes to plots and movies, but I do think this movie could have benefited from some sort of twist at the end. Because when you're watching it, you expect there to be a twist coming, but it doesn't. It just kind of ends. For what it's worth, it's not bad, but again, I think it kind of leaves a lot to be desired. I think it left a lot on the table in terms of that. And that's getting back into, like I mentioned before, about if you're watching this movie for story and for plot, you're not going to get it. But if you're watching it for visuals, holy shit.
It glowed from within, strange and eternal.
But enough of that, let's wing scale this bitch. I'm giving this movie a hot buffalo, but with an asterisk. Only because it's not a movie that I would recommend anybody go out and go see. If you're into these type of movies, then great. It's probably right up your alley. But like I said before, and I can't stress this enough, this movie is not for everybody. And I've seen other reviews on it, and I've seen how polarizing it is. And it is definitely one of those types of movies. You're either really gonna like it, or you're really gonna hate it. I like this movie. I thought it was excellent, but the plot was paper thin, and it's not one that I think that I personally would go back to the well and watch multiple times. Even though I'm giving it a hot buffalo, like I said, it's coming with that asterisk in there. It's something to be experienced, and it's something to watch, but it's definitely not suited for everybody. But anyway, that's my look into Mandy. Yeah, what a crazy ass batshit insane ride it was. If any of you guys have seen it out there, I encourage you to comment below. Do you agree, disagree? Yeah, there's not much else I could say. It was definitely an experience. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe right below. Adios and GTFO.